Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and we're back for part 2 with Bob from Rock of Ages. We have discussed quite a bit in part 1, and we're going to get into a little bit more in part 2, some questions that I didn't think to ask in the first part. So my first question is, when you were over at the old location over there across the street, at one point or another, and I'm thinking, based on what we talked about a little off the record, that it would have been in the 80s, you opened a location over on Telegraph near West Chicago in the strip mall. How did that come about, and what was that for? Was that just to expand a little bit, or what was the purpose of that?
The thought was that, and anybody old enough to remember Corvettes.
Yeah.
But before I got Telegraph, the Rock, and it gets brought up by customers a few times, they'll ask me, I actually did Rock of Ages 2, per se, in my old wholesale location in Westland.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was, when the wholesale was kind of dwindling out, Michael Jackson merchandise stopped selling, tapestry stopped, things really slowed down. And what was happening back then, unfortunate for me, and again, why I'm glad I made the segue, not only going wholesale retail, but it eventually turns out to be wholesale's done. It's full retail. If I didn't make the segue of starting Rock of Ages, I don't know where because the wholesale was really tanking. So the thought back then was, okay, we've got the retail location, Rock of Ages, which I opened across the street. We have the merchandise. We have very little invested with it. We're not making all the Halloween.
Right.
And we still have the wholesale place in Westland. So why don't I take the front half of the building and do it all up and hang everything up similar to Rock of Ages. It'd be like Rock of Ages 2, per se. Granted, it's just right down the road. But we were taking the extra inventory to bring it up front, figure we have no cost involved other than what we initially paid. That thought and that idea was just another Hail Mary last desperation attempt. When you're in your 20s, you know, there's nobody guiding you. And especially with what we did back then, we were in our 20s, everybody working for us, we were all young. And we either had a few people that kind of, as they say, carry you under the wing and help you out and show you the ropes. The majority of them never did. It was dog eat dog. There was all these young guys, you know, they're going to take over what we do, whatever the other business or store would be. So we did the Rock of Ages 2 over there. It went okay. We spent a lot of time. We, spray painted the ceiling and took the drop ceiling out and made it all look fancy. It went for a bit. It wasn't that fantastic. So then I thought, okay, we got to come up with another idea. Why don't we do Rock of Ages 2, which again would be for the second time. And the way the Telegraph location came up is what I remember as a kid is Corvette's place. And that was at West Chicago and Telegraph. I said, you know what? Why couldn't I come up with the same concept, the same idea, and relive what Corvettes had in the 70s that they lost as that whole chain went down?
Right.
I mean, I remember the record department of Corvettes carried the rest of this. For anybody young enough, they don't know what Corvettes is, that's with a K. That chain was similar to Sears, like a department store. You had upstairs, you had downstairs, you had your vacuums and your clothing. If you took Target and JCPenney and Montgomery Wards and put them all into one, that's kind of like what Corvettes was. But the unique thing about Corvettes is you'd go up the escalator to the second floor, you had a massive record area. Everybody knew Corvette. So I thought, if I could capture what they have, this is going to be great. And it's a good distance away from here. So then we pack up everything from Westland, retail-wise, move it over to the Telegraph location. I secure the location. And I remember at the time, now we were facing Telegraph. Unlike Corvettes that was facing east and west, and they're now, I think, Burlington.
Yeah.
They faced out that way.
They
I
faced West Chicago,
Pretty good sized store. Now, again, I didn't have any money at the time, so what I had to do, unfortunately, I made money and I bought an 84 Dodge 600 convertible in 84, which for my Michael Jackson profits, as I would say. Hey, I got a convertible, I'm finally doing something for myself, I sell the car, and I don't want to, but I sold it in order to get a little bit of money, pay for the lease and so forth. So as hard as it was to part with my Dodge 600 convertible, I had, $6-7 grand to work with because I had no money. It wasn't that easy. So I took the money and got the thing, got the location. I ended up hooking up with another company that, again, it's gone. They were at 5 and Telegraph. I used to get a lot of used showcases and furniture, and it turns out he would buy places out. He bought out Montgomery Wards, and everybody knows you got to go to Wagner, and they're going to buy you out. He had multiple buildings up and down 5 and Telegraph. So ironically enough, at the time, he bought out a store that had beautiful Formica furniture, countertops. It would be perfect for the store. So I set up a deal with him, and I said, I'll buy this when your bankruptcy release from wherever you bought this from says you can sell it. So now we got the equipment lined up, we've got the product, we've got the location. Let's see if we can make it fly. And we did kind of the same idea over there. We had Sabotage, did an in-store with them, a few bands here and there. But what I saw at the time that I couldn't believe is, as they say, the demographics have completely changed. So when I open it up thinking it's going to be somewhat of a carryover from here and a nice sign out front, spend all this money, it wasn't happening. It was okay, but it wasn't happening. Even though I would get product and I had music books and things that were good profits, it was eating me up in that at that time, I think it was like $2,500 a month rent, which is a lot, late 80s. And I tried and tried and tried, and eventually it was just eating me up, and everything I did was just done. I just couldn't make it happen. And there'd be days where there's nothing going on. Now, the positive aspect of it is I would call over to that store. I'd say, well, how are you guys doing? You know, I just sold 100 Metallica garage stations. Oh, we just sold 5 Luther Vandross and 5 Whitney Houston.
Right, different clientele.
What are you talking about? Again, the music that I wasn't familiar with it, but I never really sold it. But I'm open to any idea. So even though I got burned by the thought what Corvettes had that I couldn't bring back, the demographics changed into educating me that, wait a second, there's R&B, there's rap. What's coming up?
Rap. I was going to say, rap would have been great.
So now my showcases, and I couldn't understand it. I do now, but at the time, wait a minute, you sold 5 LL Cool J's? I just sold like 50 more, Megadeth. And I was just putting the two together. I go, wait a second, we've got something. Yes, I'm known as the metal store, the rock store for many, and I incorporated rap. I incorporated R&B and so forth. And they were getting special orders and people were coming in. But then again, the rent was eating things up too quick. Well, let's try again. We'll reload. We'll move it again for the third time, which is Rock of Ages 2 for the third time. So I get out of the Telegraph store because it was eating me alive for rent, and I moved to Plymouth and Middle Belt over by Wonderland. So I was off Plymouth Road there in a building that was about a third of the rent. I think it went from $2,500 to like $800 and something. And I was in a little strip mall, had crazy Benzies. I had an archery place next to me. Everybody got along, everybody had fun. Same problem. I was getting closer to this location, and it got to a point where it was just eating me up. I had to pay people to work, and I wasn't making the money. And then finally, I think as that progressed towards the late 80s, I said, yeah, I tapped out. It's like, no.
How long were you at the Telegraph?
Might have been a couple of years.
A couple of years?
It was just a couple of years between, maybe 3 years for all the segues and all the moves for it. But it just got to where I had to cut the bleeding, as I say. I had all that stuff, and let's incorporate it over to this store. And what I had in me, because again, you try stuff and you fail.
Right.
You try something else and you make it. I failed on a lot of stuff, but I made it.
Well, you've got to try it.
I did.
You just don't know.
And when you're young, in your 20s, 30s, whatever your age might be, I couldn't figure out how do all these, like this guy's got 4 stores, and this guy's got 6, and this guy's got 30. My thought was, wouldn't that be cool to do the chain thing? When you're younger, you think that way. When you get older, it's like, wow, this is really a mess. And I actually saw firsthand from wholesaling to the record stores that I now became competitors with.
Right.
I sold to record outlets and great guys. They were one of my good counts. But I learned from them, whether they realized it or not. I see what they went through. They captured the world. They had a Royal Oak store. They had a Downriver store. They had a Farmington store. They were doing fantastic. And then it all just, this one sucked this one up, that sucked that one up, done. Harmony House, same situation. I know them well enough, but, with all those stores, eventually it just caves in. Even though I wanted to expand and do all these different things, I saw how everything crumbled underneath. That it just got to be where, no, one store is good enough. I get asked all the time, but a second or no, I'm good. Tapped out, I learned my lesson. I moved 3 times, that's enough.
Well, you're also a little older now, too. You've learned that and the value of that. The other thing as far as that, and you say the learning curve, how was your business affected, especially, well, obviously here, when some of these big chains that came in, Best Buy, Circus City, FYI and stuff, especially Best Buy. Best Buy is selling CD every week, brand new ones for $9.99. That was the thing that killed a lot of chains because they couldn't compete with that kind of pricing.
I called that, and again, I learned from myself. When that happened, what's Best Buy? What do you mean $9.99? How do they go $9.99 if it sells for $13.99 and I pay $9.99? And it happened. And then you start panicking. Wrong move. You start panicking, and you start price matching, and you start giving your stuff, and you start cutting your profits. Now, mind you, always been diversified. So even though I might have played that game with the music end of it, I had T-shirts, I had stuff I can keystone, as they call it, markup, triple markup, I had other things. But I made a big mistake for a short term, realizing it made no difference whatsoever, even though they were giving stuff away. And I told everybody, customers and everybody that just brought them up, because they were the new guy on the block.
Big new guy.
This is only going to last so long. Thought was it was only going to be a 5-10 years, but it went for a bit. You see where they're at now, where they realize you can't give, and I kept saying to people as an example, you can't give stuff away. Be corporate, pay employees, pay withholding, pay the taxes, pay the insurance, and make that kind of no profit.
Well, the hope of that, of course, was to bring the people in to buy other things, because they had TVs, they had computers.
But see, they were lacking big time back in those days, in the 90s. They were lacking customer service.
Oh, big time. Absolutely worse.
They would do bait and switch on computers. They do bait and switch on everything. And I think when, so to speak, their shit hit the fan, they realized, I had enough of this. I mean, granted, that computer or that washer is $200 there. I'll go to Sam's Club and pay $300 because I don't want to deal with these. You lose it. When you pull away from a business, it takes a very long time for that back.
Yes.
And their situation now, I can't say for sure. It was like a roller coaster.
Right.
Up, down, then they're out of the music industry. They got into movies. They kicked everybody. But I wasted, as I realized in hindsight, I wasted a lot of time worrying. I matched prices, which I didn't have to do. But then I thought, I see as years go on, and wait a minute, it all depends on, they like coming here. They like what we do, and if there's a mistake or an issue, you correct it and you make it better.
Well, not only that, the biggest thing I think stores like yourself and some of the independents at the time had over a place like that. Yeah, they were selling CDs cheap, $9.99 and all that. They didn't have anywhere near the catalog as you. They didn't have deep catalog. And people that wanted to find something, you were going to go there for the new Madonna. You might go there for the new Metallica or whatever, because they were going to buy thousands and thousands of those because they were a big chain. But they weren't going to have a deep catalog. And I think people really recognized that had to help you. Because
me, it did, yeah.
Yeah, because you not only had deep catalog on the rock and the metal, but you, like you said, because you learned about the R&B and the rap, and you incorporated that, and you even got into country, you got into jazz, and you had all the other goodies.
Tried anything that people were looking for. And early on, I even had all the local bands. Again, in time, that has now kind of faded. I had a whole wall full of local stuff. Huge. Mm-hmm. If something faded out, I had to bring in something else to get attention. The Best Buy thing was a small point in time, I guess, because not only was it them, then all of a sudden Kmart has stuff, Target has stuff. It's everybody.
But I mean, there was Circuit City. There was several of those that came in and tried to take over the market.
I mean, would you match it? I'd say no. I'd show it to them. Look, I pay $10. I sell it for $14, $13.99. I make $3 or $4 on an item.
And you've got overhead. You've got all sorts of stuff going on.
Pretty much, I outlast everybody.
Right. Oh God, yes.
Harvey House is going. Desirable that was down the street.
Harvey House is in business. I mentioned it because I worked there for a number of years. They were around since the 40s, but they expanded too fast, and they did the same game. You brought in an ad for Best Buy, and didn't matter that we were going to lose money. We had to get people in the stores. Like you said, you did that for a little while until you realized it isn't necessary.
No, and see, Harmony House had another strike against them from the customer standpoint, and maybe I'd bring it up to a bit, but I learned to get out of that mudslinging nonsense from the wholesale. They don't get anywhere. But with them, I think what killed them is $18.98 for a CD all the time, and everybody else is $13.
Right.
So you're going to have the CD. More than likely they'll have the CD, but they're always the higher price. So now you've branded your store, your location, your chain to being the highest priced of everybody. Percent off $18.98. Yes. So what? Their prices are cheaper than yours with a discount.
But you realize from a business aspect, the reason for that was you didn't have as many employees. They had a lot more overhead. They had a big warehouse. That played into that a lot. And I'm not trying to defend it because obviously it didn't work. It didn't last.
No, I think that was embedded in customers today.
Yes.
There's certain things you think of. When you think of, okay, who's going to have the rock and roll merchandise 40 years later? It's going to be me. Usually I'll come to mind, maybe one other record store that's still around or whoever, not even the new guy. And if you think of a perfect example, a hardware store. Oh, there's that one over on Wayne Road. It's been there forever. They got everything. You need to get something from Home Depot or Lowe's.
Right.
Or, you get it embedded, and that's very difficult to pay for in advertising or to get people to program that way. Something's going in the wrong wrong way, you got to kind of steer the ship the other way.
Right.
And I've seen it all. I mean, some of the stuff, again, day one till now, you constantly make it better to where this is the first time, I think, ever. I don't have to advertise. I don't have a website. Some of the things that are unheard of in this day and age. You know,
Yes.
I got social media. Let my daughter do one. I'll answer a few things when I have a chance. This is it. Full time, 7 days a week. You know, I even gave up eBay because that got to the subject.
Well, that's the thing, because you've got so established, not just in the mindset, I think, of like where you started as far as the hard rock metal, because yeah, it didn't matter, which it did.
Yeah.
Metal, as far as independence and these bands, was what I think really started it. I mean, because even you go back to the 70s and stuff, these bands like Zeppelin, Aerosmith, they were all independents at one time too. But I'm just saying, you were so embedded, I think, in the minds of the people in the area, and whether it was special or not, but you were open-minded enough to say, hey, you want to come in here and say, hey, I should get this? All right, I'll try it, whatever. If it makes sense, you know, you're going to make money off it and keep the customers happy. Yeah, and that's part of, obviously that's part of the industry.
With the metal, like when I was across the street, and then again, ROA2 is now closed, all in the new building. But even when I was across the street, it was always the Metal Blade metal bands. The in-stores made a huge difference. That's what I brought out. I brought out Danzig. I brought out Peter Criss. I had anybody and everybody. It was phenomenal. Motorhead. When I brought Motorhead out, that was huge. I never thought I'd get them. And at the time, I was DJing at Harpo's in '87. And I went to the boss. I said, hey, you know Lemmy? This is Ron. I said, Ron, Lemmy's a friend of mine. Blah, blah, blah. Can you get the band to come out? And then a little hesitation. Maybe if you pay for some drinks and this, that, and the other, we can see and get them a limo. And, oh, man, and of course I wanted to have them out.
Yeah.
Again, it's a lot of money. I didn't have money to do any of this stuff, but I was a DJ. So I gave up a few nights worth of DJ money to get them. I'll make it happen. Really. So the word's out that I got Motorhead coming across the street. Sure enough, the white limo pulls down the alley. Now, Lemmy didn't make it. He was doing MTV or something. So he was playing video games at Harpo's.
Right.
Filthy Animal and the other guy.
Star player, yeah, Fast Eddie.
No, he wasn't in it. He was with Fastway. It was.
Oh, it's past that. Yeah, okay.
But the in-store went off well.
Even without Lemmy.
Oh yeah. It was great. Tons of people. And then when the limo was in the alleyway, some of my customers, Jeff worked for me, Universal Stop. There's pictures of them giving here's my album, here's my CD, here's my whatever. When I did these in-stores, a lot of the locals would do just that. Here's my CD. Could you would you take
Pass it
And
along.
most of the time they were very receptive in taking it. The Motorhead guys were great. So I go back to Harpo's that night, and we got there early. I met Lemmy playing video games, and Centipede or something. He loved it. So I get a picture with him, and little did I know that, hey, I'm a guy I own the record store. We did an in-store, and again, he was doing, at MTV Headbangers Ball, and out of nowhere, typical Lemmy, he just takes me by the neck and lifts my hand up, lifts my chin up, and does one of these numbers, here you go, and then we took a picture, and then, it was all good, and that was in '87 when we had Motorhead.
Wow.
Great in-store. Peter Criss, the same thing. Right at Rosie's house. When we made that happen, there was some controversy going on with him, with the impersonator, and his career was kind of, and
glorified bar band, yeah.
Well, Rosie booked him over at Todd's. It was in, I think, '91, I want to say. And I thought, well, this is cool. Remember a Kiss? Why not? Well, at the last minute, I got the in-store. All the Kiss fans love it. He's booked to do a solo tour over at Rosie's place. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding. Now, again, I got nothing to my name. I can laugh at this now.
Right.
Well, who's going to pick him up? He's over in some East Side hotel. Well, what do you mean? I got a Ford Festivo. That's all I got. I don't have a Kiss jet. I can't afford a limo. Can anybody? No. So fine. I get in the car. I take my little dinky Ford Festiva all the way out to some hotel, little stretch hotel, and he comes out, and the manager comes out. I meet the manager. Hey, how you doing? And there's Peter Criss comes out, some chick he met. She comes out. I got 4 people in my Ford Festiva. Now I'm thinking in my head, I go, the guy's really cool. Peter Criss has been extremely nice, really cool. Got shades on. I was hungover, whatever. Couldn't see him.
Right.
But I'm thinking, this guy's driven, in limos.
Yes.
Kiss jet.
Jets, yeah.
Kiss had, I think.
And now he's in a Fiesta.
A Festiva.
A Festiva.
I got the manager to my right. I got Peter Criss behind me. I got some chick he met from out of it.
Right.
I drive back to the in-store. And we're driving, and I'm looking up in my rear view, just seeing, his reaction. He was quiet. He just mentioned a few things here and there. The manager did most of the talk. And my biggest screw-up, told this story before, and it's true. Kiss had, what's the blue album? Is it Revenge? I think it was Revenge. And Kiss was like on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So the manager out of nowhere, he throws out this, hey, you sell, right? How's the new Kiss album selling? I said, it did okay for a bit, then it petered out. shit did I just say? And I looked up, and he's laughing, the manager's laughing, and I'm just like, open mouth, insert foot. I can't believe I said that. I said, why? I didn't mean it.
Obviously,
no, we know what you meant. And I just went, oh, man, I'll never forget that. I mean, I just looked up, and we're all getting a good laugh out of it.
You don't know, right?
No, so we bring him back to, in-store went pretty good. He was quiet, he was reserved. He did sign KISS stuff. After we got him from the in-store, which went okay, then we pick him up later that night to go play the show. We go to pick him up, take him back to Rosie's Club. He's all ludicrous, all energetic, and a show went off, no problem. But, that was a memorable one. We did have a band play. We had Love on Ice. I remember them. They played in the back. We did like a little crazy acoustic thing. I don't think they're even signed anymore, but they were on it, I want to say Atco Atlantic or something like that. Interesting.
Oh,
band.
really?
Love on Ice.
They actually played there.
Yeah, we filmed it. What they did is they played across the street at my old location. When we opened up the back, we took that second hammer, there's just nothing but concrete. So, hey, we'll just sit here and we can play. And they're good. Love on Ice. They were a very popular band at the time. Their CDs out there. I mean, they're banded. Mm-hmm. But we did them. They played live. I think it's recorded. Somebody might have taped that one. We did Annihilator.
Acoustically? Annihilator?
No, Annihilator did an in-store. But we did Love on Ice doing acoustic over there. This building, we had Sponge play acoustic. We had Speedball play in the back. Chuck played.
Out in the parking lot, you mean?
No, behind here. We moved.
In the actual room.
Speedball played at this new location that we're in now.
Yeah.
And then backing up a bit, again, continuation of the in-store. So now I'll fast forward a bit. We're out of that place, 1993. We're in the new location. Right. Still building, still growing. Mm-hmm. Not nearly the clientele I have now, but much better. Mm-hmm. My building, no landlord, no BS, no nothing. I call the shots, do whatever the hell I want.
It's your overhead. It's
my place.
It's your place.
And if I need to fix something, it's my building. So I do. So we continue down the in-stores. This would have been 1993, 1994, 95. I kept in touch with the labels. Now, again, there's still not much going on with the social media. Time I pull it off, and I had quite a few employees working at time, and I was getting their suggestions. They said, hey, let's get Marilyn Manson. Well, who's Marilyn Manson? Well, up and coming. All right, cool. It smells like children out there. Right. So I'm like, well, that'd be kind of cool. So we get Marilyn Manson. Perfectly fine. Great in-store. Good guy. Great guy. All that. It went over well. Again, on the up and coming. That one. All right, check another one off. Right. Marilyn Manson's at Rock of Ages. Let's get Typo Negative. Well, they're pretty popular now. Peter Steele's here. We do a Typo Negative in-store. Check that one off the list. Let's get Sabotage again with Oliva before he passed. So we not only did Sabotage at the second store, we had a Sabotage in-store here. And you know what? Let's get Danzig over here for a second in-store. That went over great. Then let's do Slayer for a second time. Let's do Trouble for a second time. We did a lot of bands, multiple in-stores, because they were so successful. And then we did Rob Halford. He had Fight. What's Fight? It's his new band. You mean Rob Halford's coming here? Yeah. So sure enough, Fight shows up. I see Halford come through the door. I'm like, this is great. First thing he does, he beelines it and starts shopping in the T-shirts. And I got a mile long with the people outside. Super nice guy. Right. Great in-store. We had Halford here. As far as celebrities, this happened across the street that carried on over here. I get a call. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? It was a Sunday. I'm at home. Had wrestling on or some crazy thing. Well, the Hart Foundation is here. You're kidding. I'm watching. What do you mean they're here? They're at the store. Rock of Ages. Who? Jim Neidhart and Bret Hitman Hart. Right. They're shopping. They get in the car. I drive up. I go, whoa, how did you hear about me? Well, when you come up Merriman from the airport, there used to be a powerhouse gym down. So Neidhart's in the store with his spandex, this crazy outfit that they wear, and so is Bret. And they're buying some stuff, and then off to the Palace they go to wrestle. I thought, whoa, this is cool. Then he came in a second time. Just Bret, not with Anvil. And as time went on and I moved, one day all of a sudden I look and he comes over to this location twice. I'm wrestling at the Palace. And that's how I got that photo up there. And he'd come in and buy stuff. Super nice guy. Sent me a Christmas card. I thought, this is cool. I get a Christmas card from Bret Hart with his family in front of the fire. I'm like, this is so cool. And I had the picture out by the front for everybody to see. Because back then on both doors, I had all the photos out. In time, being Polaroids, they get sun bleached. Sure. And they're destroyed. But
of course, folks, this is all before social media.
Yeah, this is all.
Which is huge.
Yeah, Polaroids. Everything was Polaroid.
Well, I'm just saying, as far as these people coming in and word of mouth still getting out.
It was up Merriman because of the airport. And then that same thing happened with Rick Steiner. He came in one day. Whoa, and then Tugboat, whatever. That wrestler came. Brad, real nice guy.
Were you having to, not these people here, but when you were getting like Rob Halford, some of these other bands that by this time are a bit more established, because they had done that there and now they're coming over here. Did anything change as far far as you having to pay to get them to come.
No, it was, well, it paid indirectly with merchandise or product, as they would say.
Okay.
So Sony might come, to me and say, hey, we'll get you Halford, we'll get Fight. I don't care. But you got to buy a box of cassettes, a box of CDs,
Okay.
which, okay, I'm buying it, but I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, you're going to be here. It's going to help
see,
big time.
yeah, and what they have to do is they got to sell it to say, yeah, the store is buying product. That's all they care about.
Sure, of course.
And back then, they'd spend money on advertising, unlike now. So, yeah, I had Halford come here. I had, the other one was Prong, which was huge.
Right,
And it's
yeah.
actually, if you look at on YouTube and you search Prong parking lot gig, Garden City, or Prong thing came out of nowhere through Sony. Sony says, hey, we got Prong playing. They're playing us. Let's get them to play in the parking lot. Like, yeah, she's okay, fine. Now, mind you, back then, I'm laughing at it now because I can't pull this off. I did all this stuff, no permit, no. I knew the police.
Noise violations.
Nah, the police were friends of mine, so the police were
But it's
great.
during the day. You're not doing this
It was
at night,
nuts.
so.
It was nuts to where when we set up Prong, they were super cool guys. I took an extension cord, plugged it in the back, pulled it outside in the parking lot. They took a carpet, they laid it across the blacktop. We had the block wall that you see out here.
Right.
A friend of ours at the time who did vinyl graphics, he put Prong, he stuck it on the wall. Prong, 1996, I don't remember. I have the actual clear 8mm footage, unlike junk you see on YouTube.
Right.
But if it's on YouTube, 3 or 4 generations down.
Right.
So I pull this off with no permit, with the radio station people were here, average people everywhere. The whole entire neighborhood was just bombed with people. It got so nuts that down the street here, the rental place, they had a guy up on a boom, way up on top to watch the show. Suckers up in the air, So all of a sudden, Prong's out here playing, and I'm looking around. I had security. I had Bull. He's a big dude, nice guy. He was security. Everything was intact. Everybody was having fun. But the look of like, what in the world is going on? And they played. Then all of a sudden, the calls start going to the police department. They call me up because we used to be a nutback anymore. I outlived everybody around here. He's gone. But yeah, she'd call up and just complain about everything. So the police called me up and said, well, what's going on? Oh, there's a band, Prong. They're playing on the party lot. Yeah, we're getting all kinds of complaints. I said, yeah, give me 15, 20 minutes of fame. We'll be fine. And got worse to where there's no parking. The band's playing full blast.
I was going to say.
Snap your finger, snap your neck out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the crowd's jumping up and down, and it was exciting. There was a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and it was chaos, the stuff I did back then. So then it got to a point, maybe 20, 25 minutes in, another cop car came. The chief gets to these guys that go back, you got to shut it down. So the guy pulls up, I'll never forget, up to the door here, and he's just looking, he goes, they're giving us the, you got it, we're getting in trouble. Oh, kind of, who is this? I go, this is Prong. Well, this is our new cadet, whatever they call him.
Yeah.
Our new guy on the thing. He likes Prong. Give him an autograph and off thing. So they take off to the station, and I told him it'll be done in a few minutes.
You put him off for a little while.
And we put it off, and it went maybe half an hour, I'd say, something like that. We got it all on film, put it on YouTube. But that situation happened. Band had a great time. People had a great time. I took an autographed Prong cleansing poster right up to the Garden City Police Department. Here you go, guys. Thanks. And it was all good.
After they played, did they then come in the store and do?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and they did a signing here and
Right.
there, and people were talking. And then I met up with Tom, the singer, Tommy. Yeah. They played downtown State Theater or something. I gave him a copy of the VHS tape. Then the topper of all toppers, even crazier than Prong, is Wesley Willett. Now that one you got to do a look up. So I had Dave working for me at the time, and he played this guy called Wesley Willett. Who the hell's Wesley Willett? Now you can see he does Howard Stern interviews. You look all over YouTube. He's hilarious. He's since passed away.
Right.
But it's this big guy from Chicago, 6'5", 300 and whatever pounds, and he plays at small clubs around here. And he does all these crazy songs, just over the top. You'd have to YouTube it if you've never heard of the guy. So I'm like, all right, we'll do an in-store with him. And then, well, let's get him to play the parking lot. Really? All right, so same thing, same idea. You just lay out the carpet. He had his organ and his keyboards or whatever he plays. We ran the extension cord out, and he's out there singing all his crazy off-the-wall songs. This guy's got like 30 CDs or something, So he's out there, and the look on everybody at the ice cream place was hilarious. He's like, this is the guy that sings, Whoop Batman's ass, Kurt Cobain. Every group has a song. That big black guy, 6'5", super nice. He's certified schizophrenic, so you don't know what you're going to get. He's got the scar across his face from getting sliced in Chicago, where he's from. He has all kinds of outbursts. He wrote a song about outbursts. This guy's playing my parking lot. So when he came in to do an in-store, I knew right away it was him. I went, hey, Wesley. He's like, hey, how you doing? Gave him a Rock of Ages shirt, which was hilarious. This guy's huge. And I didn't have a shirt to fit him, but he wanted to wear it anyway. And it looked like a halter top. So he's wearing my shirt, packed, He's out there singing his songs. The look on the face of everybody right over there. What in the world is this? The in-store went over fantastic. So I thought, what the heck,
Now, he wasn't signed in any way, was he?
His own stuff, his own label.
Did he have merchandise to sell?
That's another good point. What he did is, even though he's, schizophrenic and this and all these other crazy things, big guy, memorizes things like he does drawing freehand with pencils and pens and color pencils. He drew these gigantic, now they're probably, like the size of a poster, 4 2x3,
right.
and they're all on white canvas. And everything he drew.
Right.
And everything that he was describing, and most of it was usually city buses and downtown scenes and cars and trains and things, transit.
Right.
He remembered everything in that scene at that moment. So if he's in Chicago and he's looking out a window and there's a train going this way and it's got number 12 on it, there's a taxi that went that way.
Yeah.
All that detail is exact. And he makes a drawing of it. So what he did out here to make a little extra money, he was selling $40 a piece out the back of his van. So when he played, he made a few $100 and some beers. No, he wanted McDonald's. Everything's McDonald's. Get a McDonald's, he's happy.
Right.
So the guys from around here would go, make it happen. They pick him up or drive him out or whatever. They bring him in. They take him out to wherever the show was, usually a small club, and he would play. And I'm telling you, YouTube Wesley Willis, you'll see. And it was great. Fantastic in-store. So I thought, hey, let's get an idea. I tell you what, hey, Wesley, write a song about me. Oh, what do you mean? I write a song. So I give him my business card with my name, not the store one, my name, my cell number, and everything. And time goes, in-store's done. He plays the show. And then we fast forward, and I get a call. It's Wesley Willis on the phone. Robert, this is Wesley. I need $500. $500. Like, $500 for what? To make the record. I want to make the record. And I'm thinking, oh shit. I said, no, I don't have $5. What are you talking about? How about 300? 300. I'll make it. It's like, no, you know what? And then I just kind of blew it off. You got to be kidding. And then they eventually got money to make the CD. You got to be kidding. And then they come in and here's the CD. And they bring me a pile of CDs and I'll be damned song. And I'm track number 6 on the Wesley Willis and the Drag News with his drawing on the front. And I'm listening to it. And of course he does reverb.
Right.
I like the whoop Batman's ass voice.
Right.
And he works that reverb. They didn't want him to do it, but he did. He did the whole CD that, he did Cut the Mullet and all these other crazy songs. But he did a song and he said my name, Robert John Farsakian is the owner. Oh, it's on the song.
Actually your name.
And the song is called Rock of Ages, track 6 on that CD. If you could find it, it's probably not on YouTube. You can't seem to find it anywhere. I got a few copies, but it blew me away. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. He made a song, a claim to fame, Wesley Willis song about it. And it was great. And I've got his autographed drawing framed in my basement of the store. Yeah, he's since passed away of diabetes and all these other crazy things, but he has quite the history of, that was an interesting in-store. In, I want to say, mid-90s, I'd communicate back and forth with Kid Rock.
Right.
He reached out to me when nobody knew who he was. He would bring in some merchandise here and there. He said, hey, can I do a meet and greet at store? And it wasn't popular in the sense of time. But I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely, come on out. And of course, I didn't take any pictures because I talked to him all the time.
Right.
Big mistake. No documentation, but yeah, he was here. And I had his merchandise on the wall and his cassettes. He came to me, he said, hey, I'm going to do these bootleg cassettes of my stuff. I go, well, what is that? Well, I mix. That's how the name came, obviously, his mixing of music. So he took his own music and mixed. He says, well, I got to do Kid Rock Bootleg Tape Volume 1. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to put on the old bullshit clear cassette with the black and white cover.
Yeah.
That's all anybody did back then. And I was, all right, we'll put it for $5. You keep 2 and I'll get 3. I'm like, all right, okay, sure. I wasn't overly confident it would do anything because at that time it was eShop and ICP.
Yeah, right.
So I had it on the wall. And he said, I got Volume 2. Can I bring by Volume 2? Yeah, sure, bring it in. Now we're up to, Kid Rock Bootleg Tape Volume, 5, 6, something like that. They're selling. They're starting to sell. Something's happening. People are in note of what's going on. And I called him. I said, hey, this stuff is starting to sell, and I'm out. Why don't you, bring me all of them? Because I don't think I'm going to do them. What are you talking about? So I got signed. Hey, what do you mean you got signed? Yeah, I got signed. They got a big album. And then during this time, he also opened for Esham at Roosevelt's Pod. Again, I didn't know anything about the guy. I was filming the show on the dance floor, because I was filming Esham as a friend. Had the tripod set up, drinking beer, and there's this kid running back and forth, driving me nuts. I couldn't drink a beer. So I had my beer drinking.
Right.
So I got a picture on the one side. I'm like, what the hell? Put her down. Okay, zoom on this white kid with his hat turned backwards over to the left. That can't be Esham. And all of a sudden he's not on the left. Now he's to the right. Okay, I'm over to the right. Now he's back to the left. Oh, screw this. So I just wide angle, another slug of my beer, and I'm looking to going, I don't know what this is. I've never seen Esham before. So little did I know, I'm filming Kid Rock. He had his logo up.
Early Kid Rock, yeah.
1990, whatever it was. I still have the 8mm. And he gets off, and then Esham did his intro, and I recorded Esham. But as time went on, I was like, damn, I got Kid Rock early on. I still got to get him a copy of the tape. Talked about it through his friend made in Detroit, Tommy over there. But that's how that happened. So now we're back here. He tells me he's getting signed. I gotta be kidding, really? He goes, yep, I own Kid Rock. That's my name. That's what I'm going to do. And he actually had a situation that he asked me about where at one point Rhino Records had a compilation, a little rhino.
Right, yeah.
The Rhinoceros was called, you probably could maybe on eBay find it, but it was Kid Rock favorites or something. But it was music, kids song. It was Rhino, little Rhinoceros on the front, and it said Kid Rock something or other.
Right.
I found it
in reference to what kids.
He called me up and he said, hey, we're getting them. Is that thing still out there? I go, yeah, it's still available through Rhino Records. Well, we're giving them a cease and desist. They're not going to make that thing. That's my name.
Right.
I own it. That ain't going to happen. And he got huge, and that thing got pulled.
Yeah.
End of that story. And then we talked briefly, and he says, yeah, it's going to be coming out at the end of the year. I think it was The Devil Without a Cause.
Right.
And I went, well, that's kind of cool, And from my standpoint for him, and I haven't talked to him in 20 years, I remember him when he was hustling and trying to make something of himself. So what some people see of him now, like, he's an asshole, he's a Trump supporter, and look, I saw what he was trying to be. He's there now, even his merchandise and his product. So what I say, if I ever talk to him, good for you. You made one, and you made it. So it happened, and that album hit. I remember it came out, the terms list price. It came out as an $11.99 CD through Warner Brothers Atlantic, and which is a relatively cheap. Not going to go anywhere. Maybe no one's going to buy this. It's a rock. That album hits. All of a sudden, Riff is playing. Now I get a note from Warner Brothers. Well, this thing's starting to sell. It's $13.99. What? What do you mean? You bumped it $2? It went from $11.99 to $13. You get a notice from Warner Brothers. That's how the game works. You know how it is. Then all of a sudden it shoots up in the 3, 5, 6, 7 million or whatever it was at the time. 13 is going to 15.99. Yeah, we're going up to 15. 14 million later, it's still $18.98 list price. So they jacked it all up. And then all of a sudden, like, I felt great for the guy. I mean, I used to see caller ID would say Robert Ritchie over, hey, Kid Rock, isn't that great? Then all of a sudden he moves out. Last time we really talked, but I called him back, and I was bowling one night. One of the guys came up to me and says, hey, you got thanked on the Devil Without a Cause album. I go, what are you talking about? Yeah, you're on the inside of the credits. Again, the thank you thing I knew nothing about. And I looked, and I was like, damn, I am in there. So I called Kid Rock up. I said, dude, thanks for thanking me on the record. And he's like, yeah, don't forget about you, man. You're welcome. And this thing, better things.
You got me started.
Better things are going to happen. It's the last time we talked.
So out of all, and I really dig this as far as the local, because my show really is about chronicling the local scene, the history of the music scene in here. Obviously, we've gone beyond that. Out of all the local artists that you've had in stores with, or you've sold their merchandise or whatever, would you say then that either ICP, Esham, or Kid Rock would have been the biggest? Would they have outsold over a period of time, like the metal bands? I mean, the local metal bands like Halloween Seduce that you had mentioned, big time.
They're in the million.
But do you think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, because I know that a lot of the metal bands didn't do that. They might have did it eventually. They weren't as much into the merchandising. Yeah, they had T-shirts, but didn't get into all the other stuff like ICP is had done.
Well, but they also they've got a good network. Yeah, keep in mind, like Joe and his brother Rob, who's Jump Steady, they coordinate. He coordinates it. They get together. This guy works for the company. This guy's an artist. This guy is the DJ mix. They've got all people eating all these things. They're constantly coming up with merchandise. Unlike the others that probably don't put time in like they do. But I mean, their merchandise is off charts.
Yeah.
Nobody compares to them.
We're going to end this with Bob. Thank you so much. I'll have to come back another time and we'll continue this on with, because I know you have more stories. There's a lot more artists that I know you've had here. One of the ones, of course, is Dio and some of the other metal guys, Dio and all that. I'd like to talk to you about that and Korn and some of the others. But we're going to end this right now. And Bob, I want to thank you so much because I know you're working hard and you're working here by yourself more or less 7 days a week. Take time after hours to do my show. I really appreciate it. We're also going to try and correlate with Bob and Roosevelt somewhere down the line, hopefully this winter, to get over to Harpo's to do a show with you two together, because I know you guys have a lot of history and you'll have a lot of great stories to tell.
And we've got some crazy stories.
Yeah.
But we will talk about Korn and Dio. Those are great ones.
Yeah, we'll get in that into the future. Anyway, this has been Jimmy Jive and Motor City Rock Talk. I've been here with Bob for the last 2.5 hours at Rock of Ages in Garden City, and I could stay here another 4 hours, but he's got to work in the morning. He's got to come come back into work and do this again. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. But again, thank you, and we will get together again. I really appreciate
Thanks a lot.
you taking the time to do this.
Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Thanks. We'll talk to you people later. Rock on.